Welcome to the DetroitSportsRag.com Detroit Lions preview. My name is Jeff Moss. These three lunatics agreed to put their professional careers on the line tonight to go up at Buffalo Wild Wings in Livonia. I will start for order of seniority. David Burkett from the Detroit Free Press, Lions beat writer. Kyle Meinke from MLive.com. I got Meinke, right? Like a Meinkampf? I don't think that. I don't want to take you first. And finally, from Detroit News, first year on the beat, Detroit News beat writer Josh Katzenstein. All here. Go ahead, man. All here tonight to talk about the Detroit Lions 2014 season. We're going to get right to the big story of the offseason. The Helen Thomas of Detroit Lions press corps, Dave Burkett.
All right.
Gets the first. Please don't say anything about the Palestinian situation. Helen Thomas, longest tenured person, gets the first question.
You feel old.
Well, I'm still older than you. Talk me off the ledge here. Obviously, if you follow downriver police blotters and standards, you know I was not exactly thrilled with the Jim Caldwell hiring. Is there any reason that I should be optimistic about the Jim Caldwell era starting in what, 4 days?
I'll give you two reasons. I think, one, this offseason has been all about Matthew Stafford and obviously trying to get him right. And Caldwell and his staff all have a history of working with Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks and better. So, in theory, at least the Lions theory is that these guys will be able to help get Matthew Stafford on the right path.
Who was the good quarterback he had at Wake Forest?
Well, but we're talking about the NFL here.
Oh, okay.
Peyton Manning and obviously Joe Flacco. That's great here. But I think the bigger thing is just listening to the players talk so far this preseason. To a man, everybody speaks highly of him and the way that he treats players, how he holds guys accountable, what he does behind closed doors. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
And that really, I'll go to Kyle next in order of seniority. In order in which he's here. That really is kind of what the Lions always seem to do when they go for a new coach. Back when they had Wayne Fonzie was the players coach, they finally got rid of him. They went to Bobby Ross, who was a military sergeant. When they had Martin Morningweg, who couldn't talk to the media, then we got Mariucci, who was a used car salesman. It seems like they've done the same thing as what Dave was saying. They've now got a guy level-headed who isn't going to get upset, throw flags, get into fights with other coaches. They got a guy who, I'm not sure if he's got comatose on the sideline. Do you think that's the approach they need?
I think they're looking for a contrast. That's exactly what they got. In terms of personality, he's I remember a training camp practice last year with Kevin Schwartz. Stop the cruise whistle, stop the bullshit, and two out of rookie when I had him. And he was a fiery guy. He was not afraid to call it a rookie, but he was kind of afraid, I think, sometimes to call it a guy like say Nick Fairley. So Jim Caldwell, he's not.
Was it because he had a plateau for stars versus other players, and that's why maybe Matthew Stafford had been coddled for years, and some of the superstars like Ndamukong who never criticized? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Players that talk to, it's fair to say. Players that all talk to, it's fair to say. Then you can call Caldwell, he's not afraid to pass whoever, a guy like Nick Fairley. And he might not be the fiery guy, but Nick Fairley is waiting to go to him this preseason. You see Nick Fairley go out and hire a personal chef. You see his methods.
Right. So, Josh, we're going to get a different person, obviously, than Jim Schwartz. A 180 degree difference than what we had. The question I have with Caldwell is, the guy was notorious for getting out-coached in his former life when he was the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I've seen many national writers basically mock his Super Bowl preparation. I think a lot of people, he got out-coached by Sean Payton in that game. There was rumors that he might be on the outs of the offensive coordinator of Baltimore last year after they had a horrendous season offensively. Are you stable demeanor overcome calling timeouts to get a rookie quarterback more time to beat you in a playoff game?
I think so, because I think he's learned quite a bit since 2009 when he was getting into trouble with his timeouts. I mean, after that season, I believe he hired someone with the Colts to help him with some of that game management. And I think if you're able to admit those mistakes like that, I think that shows a level of understanding.
Did he bring someone like that to the Lions?
He has not.
I remember after that game, for a while he defended those timeouts. He did it twice. That one game against the Jets, Sanchez, was another game where he did a similar thing, where Peyton Manning, the guy who gave him the stamp of approval for the job, seen on national TV shaking his head. Why the hell are you giving Sanchez more time? There's other examples you could give that where they were questioned about his in-game management, but it's not a concern to you right now, or something to watch out for?
I don't think it's a big concern. I guess, since he does have those mistakes in his past, it's something that might be a little bit of a concern. But I mean, he obviously learned a little from those mistakes, back when he was initially Colts head coach. And then, I mean, he's had other experiences with the Ravens. I mean, even if, he was on shaky ground last year, he did win a Super Bowl when he was the offensive coordinator. And I mean, I think he probably learned a lot from John Harbaugh that year, too. So I think, he's grown quite a bit as a coach, he's told me that. And I think that, even if he wasn't perfect, in his first run with the Colts, he did get them to the Super Bowl his first year.
Okay, the biggest thing I think with the new coaching regime is the coordinators. And the Lions went out and got kind of two unknowns because they've never been offensive or defensive coordinators. I got to go with a little bit of bringing in two coordinators, neither of which have ever had that job, in Lombardi and Earl Austin. What have you seen from them in the OTAs, preseason, training? What kind of philosophy do you think they're going to have? I know George was out of place. It's funny, it kind of was in his previous life. Are we going to see more blitzing? Are we going to see more passing to set up the run with these guys?
Defensively, I think one of the biggest differences we're seeing this year is definitely an aggressive. I think you see a lot more blitzing. All the players talk about that. I think the players like that. I'm not sure how much that factors into that or not, but the players like the system. I think that was
All right, let's go over to another kind of large topic, and that is Mark Mayhew, who enters this season, Dave, with a record of, I believe, of 29 and 51 in 5 years, averages about 5.8 wins a year, had the high mark of the 10 wins a couple years ago when they made the playoffs, but not beating any team over 500 that year. There were rumors going into last offseason that Schwartz might not be the only casualty, but Mayhew made it through. Is this a make or break it year for Mayhew? Is he on any sort of hot seat going into this year?
I think he's got 2 years. I think everybody in the organization has 2 years, basically. Matthew Stafford, his contract, he's got guaranteed money for next year on his contract. Mayhew, Bill Ford Jr. is not going to be as loyal as his father was. He's going to man in charge here. He is, however, he's going to stay far away like the family in terms of some of the freedom that he gave some of those guys. And I think he realizes that it wouldn't be fair to Jim Caldwell and his staff to pull the plug after 1 year. I think that he was paid for 2 years. I do think, barring something drastic this year, I don't think anybody will be in trouble this year. I do think next year will be the season that, assuming they do not, have a successful season, I think next year is the year that everybody's going to
So even if this team, after all 6 year we're entering with the Mayhew, even if this team somehow, with all the expectations, all the hope, they go out and play a 5-11 or a 6-10, you don't think there's any chance that Mayhew, as you just mentioned, is the first year after the death of William Clay Ford Sr. We really don't know how Bill Ford's going to run this team because he always exploited an issue to steer up to the wazoo of not, basically interceding in his dad's hobby. We really don't know, but you really think another disastrous year under Mayhew, he still gets another year because of a loyalty to Caldwell?
Well, all bets are off. We don't know. And you're right. Last year, when things were going wrong at the end of the year with Jim Schwartz, there was obviously some speculation, some rumors that Martin Mayhew, some of those guys were going to feel the pressure too, that they might be out of jobs too. The Ford family decided to put them in place. Historically, they've had more of a loyalty to the general manager or the person in charge running the team than the coach. I don't think that will change this year. I think we need to have time. No matter what Jim Caldwell
Thomas
said,
still have an office there?
no matter what Jim Caldwell has said about expecting to have a team that contends for the playoffs right now, the first year of a new regime, or contend for a Super Bowl right now, the first year of a new regime, I think you just go back historically in the NFL, that's highly unlikely.
Everybody at this table, I think, is in agreement, without a doubt, the Lions' first choice for a coach last year was Ken Whitman. Okay? To the point where it had to be a little frustrating for you guys when they had the press conference announcing Caldwell. Either Juwan or Mayhew was up on that podium taking questions. We had Caldwell's sermon, and that was it, basically. The questions for him. Do you think, considering the Lions are, even by someone as cynical as me, the fan of this team, better situation at this point than Tennessee, do you think any of that potential lame duck status of the GM entered into Wisconsin's decision not to take this job?
I haven't talked to Ken Whitman, so I can't say it.
Just say yes.
And just to clarify, too, Juwan and Mayhew did answer all of our questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, which nobody, the fans could not see.
Juwan mentioned that they had two great candidates right before all of the interviews. So he came and jumped out in front of that right before all the speeches.
And I want to apologize for if there's any inconvenience I'm going to cause for you having to switch the security policy for that press conference based on any rumors that might have been showing up in said press conference. So I do want to apologize for any inconvenience the DSR might have caused you. And I appreciate you showing up today, even though, what was that extra security to prevent me from getting up? You know?
They let me in just fine. I think we had to show ID.
Oh.
But no, look, I think
What do they think? I had a Scooby-Doo mask on that was presenting danger happening?
I hope not.
I know who you are.
I think your point about Wisenhunt is well taken. Though I do not know what the true story is behind that, why he turned it down. On the surface, on the paper, it would seem like the Lions' job was a better job, but I don't know if he played with Mayhew. He knows Mayhew well. He has a good relationship with Mayhew. I was in San Diego last year talking about that a little bit.
Right.
So I don't necessarily know that it's a Mayhew thing. Maybe it has something to do with the quarterback. Maybe it has something to do with more of the power that he got there to help set himself roster. I don't know what that is, but it's curious to me.
To me, it seemed like it was with another boss. They had come back and went. If you're going to go retread route, I'd rather at that point of month throw in about 5 Ford dealerships, give them Star Lincoln. I don't care to have somebody. But when you have a franchise that's won one playoff game in 56 years, and your fan base is basically dying for the action of the head coach, and you give them a universally panned by at least the fan base, the decision, a guy in Caldwell. I just
You're a Mike Leach guy.
okay. I love Mike Leach. Even I, as insane as I am, though the Lions aren't going to go out and get a guy who's got litigation ongoing regarding his last head coaching job. So, no, I was a Mike Leach guy. Someone outside the box. Someone like Brad.
Jeff, why is Ken Whitman held in such a high regard? He led the Cardinals to a Super Bowl that they lost.
I agree. You talk about the wins and losses and actual, but if you watch Jim Caldwell, he basically to me, he didn't give me any confidence. But he had Peyton Manning. He had top 3 quarterbacks of all time. When he was a coach of Wake Forest, he took over a team from a team that was decent. For the whole tenure, they were awful. He had a 280-something win percentage. The next year, when they hired a new guy, they went back to over 500. When he had Dan Orlovsky as a quarterback instead of Peyton Manning, they were terrible. Now, I agree that anyone with Dan Orlovsky, which could happen in a moment's notice, this is going to be horrible. But where is his resume other than having a guy who basically coaches himself?
But Ken Whisenhunt started Matt Leinart ahead of Kurt Warner, another Hall of Fame quarterback, during his time in Arizona. And that
Why are you trying to contradict me with facts? All right, let me get to another question for you two. I know you two were all on board. The pick of Eric Ebron. The second tight end the Lions have taken in the first round of the Martin Mayhew regime. To me, that's why we put everyone at this side of the table against Eric Ebron. To me, I don't understand when you have so many holes in your defense. To me, it's a luxury. Tight end is a luxury pick. Name me another team in the NFL that's taken 2 tight end first rounders in the last 5 or 6 years.
Let me ask you, which defensive player would you take this up with Justin Miller on the board with Anthony Barr?
Look, I don't understand when this team's fascination with trading up all the time. I would have traded down. I don't care what you do, guys. They ran up to the podium to take Ebron. He was 8 minutes on the clock. How much time was on the clock when they took Eric Ebron? How much time was on the clock? 6.5 minutes. Wait a minute. I mean, you know you're taking Ebron. You've been deciding this for so many months. I don't wait till the last minute. Trade down. I don't care. Get the quarterback from Michigan State, who, by the way, is getting rave reviews down in Cincinnati from Marv Lewis, who's not a guy who's actually had enthusiasm about his kid. I just don't think you can have the luxury to take 2. But it goes to the whole thing of coddling a guy who was the #1 pick overall. They've given this guy and are made up of talent around him. When does Matt Stafford, as the #1 pick overall, have to do this on his own or at least make someone better? You've given him Calvin Johnson. You give him Bell. You give him Book. Now you give him 2 first-round pick tight ends. I just didn't see it. But I understand what you're saying. If you're going, this is the problem with the Lions. They're always behind the curve. They needed Martin Mayhew as a general manager. They took Perry Farrell for Randy Moss. That's when they needed a guy who just said, I'm just going to take the best talent in the world. Defend yourself.
No, I mean,
and speak up when you do.
You're saying it's not about coddling Matthew Stafford. You mentioned that, your point is well taken, though, that he needs to prove that he can improve the weapons around him. That's something that the best quarterbacks in the league do. You look at Aaron Rodgers.
Who's the ever?
That's a good point. But at the same time, you said it's so many holes on defense. Filling one of those holes isn't going to change the team. Build with your strength with his offense, and Ebron was the best player on the court. I think most people around the league would agree with that. A lot of people saw him as a top 8 talent, one of the best guys in the draft. And I think this is a guy who would have been stuck. And I don't think it's going to take very long. I think when you're 6'4", 250, run a 4.5 40, it's so hard for defenses to stop. Safeties can't cover you, linebackers can't cover you. We saw a little bit of that in preseason. And I think, between him and Golden Tate, Calvin Johnson should have a lot more openings this year. And that's the guy you're building your offense around, not Matthew Stafford. Calvin Johnson's still the guy.
Not only do I believe Eric Ebron is the best player available for the Lions at this time, you can get what Houston does. Value in the system. If you're using the slot, you're using something like that, it's going to block you. It's going to be all over the place. You can grab if you reach for a quarterback, you get less. The value is high.
All right, I was lukewarm with it.
Okay, yeah, defend me here.
I was lukewarm.
Two slappies over there with Eric Ebron.
No, I understand why they did it. Like Kyle said, no Anthony Barr, no Justin Gilbert. Those were their 2 highest rated defensive players after coming back. No Mike Evans. I just think, talking about Lions luck, maybe that was Lions luck, that the guys that, could have affected the team in another position were gone, so they went tight end. I just don't know that there was a better option there. Taylor Lewan, maybe. I might have gone Taylor Lewan if I was making an offensive lineman. Theory could have solidified that offensive line for his right where he could slide. Riley Lee could side at some point. That way you don't have to use a third round pick on the second slot. I think there's a lot of variables there. I can't kill the Eric Ebron pick because, like Josh, I think he's going to be a good player at time.
We're going to know real quick. The jury on that pick is going to be, I think within 6 weeks we're going to see.
I don't think it's going to take much time, personally. I legitimately think by the end of the season we'll be talking about him as a top 10 tight end in the NFL. And that's why I think it's not a luxury pick, because, we can talk about Brandon Pettigrew, but Brandon Pettigrew's never been a top 10 tight end.
No.
They have a lot of room, and you can bash that pick, but you can't make your future picks based on your past failure.
So they kept Pettigrew, and they gave him some money.
That's true, but they didn't know Ebron was going to be there.
In defensive lines, too, Joe Lombardi's offense is very tight end friendly. It revolves around the tight end. So I see it as a